idea we only use 10% of our brains is a persistent myth that drives me truly batty. It's peddled by pop culture and dodgy self help gurus promising to unlock your hidden potential. Because in this day and age, everyone needs to make a quick buck, and crafting a narrative rather than offering a real science backed solution is a surefire way to become an internet expert. What's crazier, even with the plethora of information available to everyone, which debunks this nonsense faster than those filters on your iPhone cover up your wrinkles, people still follow the stars and fall for the snake oil pitches every single time. Now, here's how we can prove this information is utter nonsense. And FYI, if you're following someone who's telling you it's true, time to delete them from your socials. Now, brain imaging like fMRI or PET scans show that your brain's buzzing 24/7, even during sleep, making sure you keep taking those breaths and delivering you those wild dreams. And if you haven't yet checked out the podcast episode called Sleep Secrets, Are Your Dreams Fooling You?, which dives into the truth about unpacking those giant marshmallow chasing nightmares, you really should. But stick around here for a couple more minutes until I've dished the dirt on this psychology faux pas. Okay, so I kind of told you a teeny tiny white lie, read the whole of your brain lighting up like a Christmas tree 24/7. If you happen to be part of the 1% of the population who are psychopaths, then your ventromedial prefrontal cortex, your VMPFC, which is the brain's guilt and empathy HQ, is kind of on a permanent coffee break. Now, research shows that while this region is packed full of extra grey matter, and grey matter is the squishy gooey stuff responsible for things like thinking, feeling and deciding what to do or what not to do, it doesn't quite work in the same way for them as it does for everybody else. So think of it like this: in 99% of the population, the VMPFC and the amygdala have a bromance on par with Dean Winchester and Castiel from Supernatural. In psychopaths, it's more like a Romeo and Juliet relationship. They're madly in love, but tragedy after tragedy leads them to that fateful moment when all connection is lost. What this means is that lovely-dovey stuff that stops me and the vast majority of the population from heading out and poisoning all our competitors to get ahead is absent, which also ends up making them top of the class for the capacity to think and make decisions, more grey matter, more brain power, but without the added guilt attached to being a super bitch just to get what you want in life. Meaning, while they only make up between 15 to 25% of the prison population, the other 75 to 85% of the super thinking without the feeling types head up the boardrooms of some of the most powerful companies in the world, take center stage in the Houses of Parliament, and stick like glue to the top jobs in the financial industry. So if you've ever wondered how some of the world's elite seem so frigging heartless, well, a little gander down the psychopathy scale hints at the often unspoken truth. Oh, and as an additional aside, it's also why geniuses tend to be less life of the party and more hiding out in their mum's basements. The increased ability to plan, reason, think, and pull oodles of information together results in a deflated capacity to hold a nonsense-based convo and just kick back with a couple of drinks for the heck of it. So back to the brain. Even though it's just a measly 2% of your body weight, it guzzles 20% of your energy in the same way a frat boy guzzles lager. You think your expertly designed biological system is going around throwing away precious resources on a mostly dormant organ? Now, ideas like this is what the lol emoji was invented for, but maybe that's my science humor kicking in. So here's some real world examples of actual humans proving this to be a fabrication for profit. First up is my personal favorite, and I even reached out to his mum back in 2015 and a long phone convo with her just to check it was okay. I was using her son's story to help all my clients heal. She, by the way, is an adorable human being. So Noah Wall was born with just 2% of his brain due to spina bifida and hydrocephalus, and his brain scans are truly insane. Throughout her pregnancy and even after birth, doctors predicted he'd never function, and for quite a large portion of the pregnancy encouraged her to have a medical termination, aka abortion. Yet thanks to the non-stop engagement and enrichment of his life by mum, dad and big sis, his brain rewired itself, growing to near normal size by age 3, allowing him to talk, learn and thrive. And at age 10 he was walking and signed up for an experimental therapy which would allow him to run. And if this doesn't show you the brain's incredible plasticity using all available resources, I genuinely don't know what will. Perhaps I can tempt you with the truth about the story of Phineas Gage, the 1848 railway worker whose personality supposedly flipped after a rod pierced his frontal lobe. FYI, recent analysis of first-hand accounts from people who knew him suggest his changes were exaggerated by a psychiatrist who coincidentally became famous, or temporary, as he was reported to have resumed a functional life, reverting back to his pre-brain piercing personality in the years afterwards. Now, the dude literally had a 13-pound, 3'7" iron rod driven through his noggin while working on the train tracks. It was pulled out and his brain repaired itself. So remember, this was back in the mid-1840s, so long before we had robots performing brain surgery. In fact, the chance of survival after an injury like that back then was between 5 and 10%. Or maybe the fact that they could only whip it out and bandage him up is the thing that saved him. No one on the outside fiddling around and joining bits together that don't belong. Now, they say 3 is a lucky number, so how about instead of just focusing on 1 or 2 extraordinary people, we dive into something which affects around 80% of people who suffer a right hemisphere stroke. So you've probably never heard of this, but there's something called hemispatial neglect, where stroke patients ignore half of their body. And my mum, who was a nurse before she retired, told me about people she'd look after who would only shave one side of their face, not due to laziness or an injury to their arm, but because their brain quite literally didn't register the other side's existence. It just didn't exist to them. And not in a your mate's pissed you off so you're ghosting them type of way, but as in a it just does not exist as a concept in their mind, which is so hard to get your head around, but sadly very true. And because we know the left side of the brain is responsible for the right side of the body and vice versa, we also then know that when somebody suffers from a left hemisphere stroke, the confusion will be with the right side. Thankfully, this usually rights itself without medical intervention in the vast majority of stroke victims just after 12 weeks. Though between 13 to 30% sadly suffer with this beyond that time and still show persistent symptoms up to a year later, which brings us nicely to our conclusion. Every brain region matters. Oh, and that whole 10% myth, it possibly comes from William James' vague untapped potential idea, and now you know it's pure fiction. Trust me, your brain is a 24/7 powerhouse, and believing otherwise only deems to sell you short. So here's why busting this myth is awesome for you. Number 1, neuroplasticity is king. Noah Wall's case shows you your brain can heal from trauma. The key to unlocking the reality of what your brain is capable for is enrichment. Non-stop binge watching, reading, or listening to things which expand your mind. And if you can't do a thing, then learn. If you try and suck the first 100 times, no biggie, try again. At some point, you'll not suck. Then once you've mastered this one thing, and when I say mastered, I mean you're capable of doing it, still enjoying it, and do a pretty darn good job, not necessarily being the best in the world at it, find something else to dive into. Don't just make it all educational either. Mix it up a bit. Some stuff pumping your logical neurons and other stuff exciting your creative neurons. Remember, your entire brain is important. Feed it and it'll grow. Number 2, throw away negative beliefs. And the 10% myth feeds the idea that you're not enough, something which it only will make you feel shitty. And it's actually proven to completely derail any chance of recovery. So it's kind of like you're driving a getaway car and the police throw one of those stinger things, which blows up the tires, and all the bad guys are swiftly rounded up. In this scenario, you're the bad guy and now stuck in an interview room drinking vomit-inducing coffee and being stared at so intently, you're pretty sure the police detective's eyes are boring holes into your mind. Knowing that you use your whole brain gives you the power back over your free will choices and enables you to trust your capacity to grow and recover. Oh, and an extra tip, check in on some of those supposedly positive beliefs that are also keeping you stuck because you're measuring yourself against high ideals. For me, I embrace the idea that I'm disorganized. And I'm not, by the way. I'm pretty organized, but sometimes I'm just not. And if I hadn't ditched the organized label given to me by my parents as a kid, I'd be freaking out every time my desk ended up looking like I belonged in one of those hoarder shows. Number 3, love yourself and your mistakes. So like Phineas Gage, your struggles don't define you permanently. Small, consistent actions rebuild emotional resilience faster than you can shred 7 pounds at the gym. Pick one negative experience experience from your past, and it doesn't have to be the big thing. Any small thing's fine. Then take small, simple actions to help you remove its emotional entanglement with your present moment. You can use things like EFT, CBT, gratitude journaling, affirmations, forgiveness work. The list is endless. There's 1,000,001 different techniques to help, and the only reason why it probably didn't work for you when you last tried is that you just weren't consistent enough in the application. And number 4, focus on holistic health. So stroke cases highlight how brain function is tied to lifestyle. Prioritize sleep, nutrition, and exercise to support trauma recovery. These 3 are your health foundations and need to be your first focus, regardless of whether you're struggling physically or mentally. After all, you don't leave your brain at home when you head out the door. And these 3 are always neglected by 99% of the mental health professionals, and to be fair, physical health professionals as well, which is why my clients see statistically significant improvements in their physical and mental health in less than 28 days, whereas traditional therapeutic models take about 12 weeks for any emotional payoff to kick in. Your mind only works if your body is healthy. Focus on your body and you'll literally cut your healing time in half. So there you have it. Your brain's a 24/7 rock star, not a lazy 10% slacker, and even psychopaths prove it's all in how we use it. From Noah's rewiring to Phineas's comeback, every nook and cranny matters, especially when you feed it with love, not myths. Ditch the guru hype, embrace your brain's full power, and watch anxiety fade as you thrive. Until next time. Oh, P.S. Ready to supercharge your brain with the secrets from tips 3 and 4? Dive into the Happiness Hacks Lab for a 7-day free trial, no credit card needed. Unlock love yourself techniques and science-backed holistic health hacks and watch your mind soar. Join now using the link in the show notes below, because if you snooze, you lose, and this limited time offer will not be around forever.